So it's kind of surreal to sit here. I'm sitting at this table that it took me, I think, somewhere around 300 to 400 hours to make. And once I started getting to the point in time that I was building this table, that the table was built with the idea that I wanted to have a place to talk about difficult conversations that I had experienced over, at that point in time, the amount of time that I'd practiced criminal defense and domestic relations, doing things like, you know, the worst sort of criminal charges you can think, tried to juries. There was a double murder jury trial, I recall, trying to a jury. And a lot of the domestic and the divorce work was, focused on, it was very child focused, as I recall. And the big thing about the child cases were that the worst ones that I dealt with were the ones where the parents were trying to reunify with the child after something terrible had happened, whether it's like a heroin overdose or some other really catastrophic event. And so over the course of practicing law and not really having the tools and the places to let those things out and kind of talk to other people about what was going on. And the industry and humans don't really talk about those things. They don't talk about what it's like to every day have a conversation with the people that are going through the worst day of their life. And everyone that you talk to is associated with that event, and that's who your clients are. And for better or for worse, I was more of a kind of a solo practitioner at the time. So when I started having my mental health difficulties and had to kind of figure out what I needed to do to get myself kind of centered again, I really had this burning desire to start talking about some of these issues and some of the issues that were so difficult to deal with in the cases, because the issues are repeated. They're repeated. Like, it's everyone's. There's a lot of people that are dealing with it, and there's the same type of people that are kind of getting down to that point. And the way I almost look at it is that there's places that our society does not actually, we don't have the mechanisms or the tools to help the people that fall through some of the cracks of our society. It's almost like a sieve, and it seems to be more and more of the same type are falling now through that sieve. And so this table was just that thought process. If I wanted to talk about it, man, I want to talk about it at a place that really is kind of cool. I really enjoy the fact that everyone loves this table. It's kind of the center of the Holistic Law Studios. It's almost like David, the statue David was for the city of Florence. It almost feels, because everyone that walks in this room just sees this table, and it's like their souls just fall out of their chest. And so I built this table with the idea that I was going to do a podcast, right? And so then the podcast, that became the question of, well, what's the podcast name going to be? And so that became a big issue as I built the table and built the sawhorses. And then I said, well, I need to have a place that I record this podcast. And so I had a place on the second floor in the building that I'm in, the Iron Fronts building in the city of Richmond. And that, it was an awesome room. It's just like this. It's got some exposed brick and just kind of like that. Actually, I liked the heart of pine flooring that was there. It's just magnificent. And so the issue came that there wasn't enough space. And so this particular office space had been vacant for a while on the third story. And I just happened to sit down with the building owner and said, hey, let me know if anyone's interested in that space on the third floor. I might be interested in that in the future. And he kind of stopped and he said, well, what's keeping you from getting it now? And I said, well, I'm not ready for it. He said, well, what if you were ready for it in a year and had it now? And I said, well, what if it doesn't work? He said, then we'll just figure it out. He said, it's empty anyway. And if you're interested, you've been here for a while, and I'll let you we'll figure it out. And so it actually worked out really, really well that I had this burning desire to have a place where we could have kind of a communal talking facilitation, and so there's rooms that we can do group spaces, probably fit about 30 people in those. And from the Inch law practice, then around that time broke away what at the time was called traumainformedlaw.com, which really started as I went to some seminars and started learning more and more and more about the trauma focus that I'm doing. And the trauma focus is kind of like a holistic human focus, because the issue is that a lot of the aspects of our society are avoiding the very human parts of us, which is the emotional aspect. Lawyers aren't really talking about the emotional aspects and the relationship and interpersonal aspects of what is really at the foundation of what the legal problem is. And therapists are not fitting into that space well either, for a couple reasons. One, they're a little too difficult to get into. Some of these issues are instantaneous. It's almost like it's like if you're an internal medicine doctor, then the people that are having the emergencies, those people that are having the emergencies, you need to have an emergency room doctor. And so there's been this spot where people have not had the ability to have that emergency room sense of kind of legal representation. What happens if you're the man and your wife is actually hitting you at the house and you're worried about calling the police because she's hitting you, but you know that when the police show up, or feel that when the police show up, that she will actually be the type of woman to put marks on herself to make sure that you're the one that gets arrested, because right now that's what's believed, or whatever it may be. And I don't want to say that that's the general thing, but these are the kind of events that a human being, like, there's no place in our society. How do you have that conversation? And are you really going to get the best results or best answers to that conversation from your friends that really don't know how these mechanisms of the law and Commonwealth's attorney's office or prosecutor's offices and like the deputies and the police, and like how do all those mechanisms kind of work? And so this traumainformedlaw.com thing kind of flourished and became its thing over time. It started about 2 or 3 years ago. And so, the law office now has also kind of had its change. I'm going from just doing anything that would come in the door to now, how do I now use my really, really creative somatic work and other understandings of how is the body actually responding to the perception of fear in the actual events that led to getting the charge or being in the courtroom, to now needing someone to get you through that quagmire, across that river of Styx, right? There's a way to start showing people where is the equivalent of the heartbeat for where's your heart rate for your neurology system? How in your body can you start to see immediately and then connect the dots and understand how is this actually connected to me going into fight or flight? What if you could start seeing the 5 or 6 keys, or start recognizing, if you're the kind of person, this is the common thing a lot of my clients are experiencing, is that they're doing something that in the moment, when they all these times they've been told, think before you act, and they get in these moments, and then so they think really, 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 really hard. But what if just in those moments, it was possible to, before you go to think, you could check something else to make sure that thought process might not be already known to be faulty? What if it's possible? What if it's possible to find out, to go in and recognize whether or not that thought process is already faulty before you actually do the problem? Because that's also one of the things that are happening is, how many times, a lot of times these clients, and I experienced it in my own life before I had to go to therapy, was one of the things that was actually happening was, oh my God, I'm thinking really, really hard about this situation when my emotions are kind of riled up, and I'm convinced that this is the correct thing to do. It doesn't seem that crazy, and now you do it. And now all of a sudden, 30 seconds, 5 minutes, 30 minutes, up to 7 hours later, until you stop and say, oh my God, what did I do? Oh, shoot, I got a lot of apologies to make, and I got a lot of cleanup to do. Welcome to the Holistic Law Studios, More Human Than Law. It is a concept where we are going to focus on legal practitioners that want the hybridization of having a physical place to meet clients that's the appropriate place, that wows clients, that they realize that you're a legitimate thing, that you're an actual businessman, that you're an actual businesswoman, that you are a professional, that you have the ability, the know-how, and the acumen to actually attract clients and do good work for them, and have beautiful spaces that promote the ability to be safe and to be able to have authentic, a beautiful space that has the ability to produce an authentic conversation, and then a place where you can actually, that's focused on how do we build the tools to be better humans while practicing whatever the professional thing that we are doing. And so we want to bring together 3 things. We want to bring together the law, we want to bring together mental health, and we want to bring together kind of off-grid human healing things that aren't going to get people in trouble, right? And so there will be offerings, I believe, of, like I said before, Reiki, I imagine sound healing, music therapy potentially. And I imagine that we'll have 3 different, my my vision is that we have offices for lawyers, offices for mental health providers and therapists, and that those come in kind of three forms, that they will be, kind of desk and interview area in the office, or is it going to be just, a private office with a place to kind of work and then one person to sit, and then have kind of communal interview rooms that can be, used at an ad hoc basis or an a la carte basis. But we also have the main area that's going to have more of a communal feel to it, larger rooms, larger group rooms. We've got state-of-the-art podcast facility and state-of-the-art podcast and recording equipment, both video, both audio. We've got beautiful spaces. The whole place is supposed to be meant to be able to be, recorded, except for, like the law office areas where people have files open. But we generally have this communal feel. It's a great environment. The energy's great. And we want to be kind of the footprint, right, one block from the government for kind of this, what is the 21st century law office look like? What's the 21st century, professional environment look like, where you can have, registered agent service for your business can be out of one of the law offices that's in the space, that you can use this as an actual mail delivery place, that you can meet clients here, that you can collaborate with other people, that you're not just on your own Viking ship, as much as that is to be fun, but you can be your own Viking ship, but you can be part of a fleet. We've got a fleet of Viking ships of other people that are doing the law. They want to be more human focused. The mental health providers are more human focused. We're actually focused on root problems. And then we have this other aspect of having human healers. And in that aspect, I guess, is where I was going. There's going to be three types. There's going to be kind of, did you just start? Do you want your side hustle, or do you work a 9 to 5, but you've always been interested in Reiki, or, you have a tarot reading business that you're really into, that you want to try to get started. And so it's really difficult to do that. And we'll have access to entrepreneurial services that people can take advantage of to whatever level they want. We want you to know we've got Trauma Anonymous going on. We want to build that. We're looking to put that everywhere. Holistic Law Studios, more human than law. We want to bring together legal entities, people that are in mental health. We want to bring human healers together in one location and start actually having an easy way that we can get people to be able to start finding the nonprofits that are actually in our communities that are looking to help people like that.